Barnaby Jones will return next Thursday night at 10, 9 Central and Mountain on most of these stations.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome back Henry Barajas, and happy to welcome for the first time artist Rachel Merrill. It's a pleasure, guys. Welcome.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Gosh, I was all ready to have a conversation with Henry about the story that he is co-writing with Alex Segura, the crossover between Ms. Fury and the Green Hornet. And I've got some images, but also we're going to talk. Now, this isn't Rachel's art. I got to pull it up. But also, Rachel and Henry are the team behind Gil Thorpe, the fantastic sports soap opera comic strip that runs through Tribune Syndication and Go Comics. And as they just told me, you can get these comic strips free if you go to this link here, right here in the chat, everybody. And that's gocomics.com/Gil and then the date. But I will put it in the chat so everybody can check it out and enjoy the strip. So, Rachel, when did you join Gil Thorpe?
Oh, gosh. I think the first one ran at the end of August or end of September. I'm trying to remember. I started in August, and then I think that my first one ran in September.
Is this your first comic strip?
Syndicated, yeah. I've done other comics on my own, and then I also did. I was in the Tori Amos anthology for Z2 for Little Earthquakes, and I've also done New Yorker cartoons.
Awesome, that's amazing. Excellent.
Kind of random different forms of comics.
And how long did it take you to get up to speed as far as the Gil Thorpe soap opera and the like?
I really like the sports soap opera, by the way. It's really good. It makes me feel like I'm working on like a sports anime, like kind of a similar vibe.
Sure.
Well, Rod's like got 14 years of work, so it's just an invaluable resource to go and see, like, how the sausage got made that way.
I bet.
It was definitely an adjustment for in terms of workload, in terms of my body adjusting to the workload. But in terms regarding material, I had, I was very spoiled in that regard, and Henry was extremely helpful and encouraging also.
That's excellent. So, Henry, did the syndicate put you guys together? Did you suggest Rachel? How did Rachel join?
No, I got the call when I had COVID in July that Rod was retiring.
Oh, wow.
And I had to pull over. They were like, "Are you driving?" They're like, and I was like, "Yes." They're like, "You should pull over for this. Rod is retiring." And it was like, I love working with Rod. He is one of the best workhorses that I've ever worked with, who's just never heard anything, from him saying that he always had it done no matter what. And that's just an invaluable thing you can't really buy these days.
Great to hear. All right, everyone who's watching, just so you know, although it won't affect your watching, but right now my laptop is being persnickety, okay. and I'm having trouble because I wanted to bring up an example of Rachel's art, and we've got the December strip ready to go as soon as my laptop unlocks. But in the meantime, I'll just ask you guys questions. Obviously, and as I'm looking at this right now, we're in the midst of football in Gil Thorpe, and is there always this feeling, both of you, that the strip needs to represent? I mean, this is high school sports rather than professional or college sports, correct?
Yeah.
So yeah, the getting the
the sports that obviously sync up with the seasons that we're in and stuff like that. So we're in the midst of a football story, obviously.
Yeah, so it goes by like high school football, uh schedules. But it does, like, from what I've read in the strip before, it doesn't really, before it has really adhered to that schedule. It's, I think, depending on the kind of story you're telling. And I think that really takes precedence over the like the day-to-day schedule, because there are fans who are very excited about the continuity and the exact things need to reflect reality, but sometimes you get caught up in the story you're trying to tell, and it's really more about the characters. And we're currently so what I did was, when Rachel moved in, I had and the last time we talked, John, was 2 years ago when I took over the strip. So the first time I had a conversation with Rod Wiggum was, what do you like to draw? And we were doing a web call, and he had like model planes everywhere. And I think he has a history of family of in the Air Force. He's like, well, I like planes. So what I wanted to do was have him draw a plane for the last strip. And Gil Thorpe is in a like a coma induced heart attack, and it starts with a full color and ink and a pencil strip, and then we go to Rachel's style. So it was just fun to be able to like go, okay, he's gonna sunset with the plane. He loves riding a plane, and then I want to make him do as little work as possible. So the last panel is pencils.
Gotcha. Very cool. Rachel, here we go. I'm going to share today's strip for the video audience, and they should be able to watch it. Is it coming up?
It's coming up
again
soon.
Okay, there it goes. Yeah, boom. Boom. Oh, let me adjust it. There we go.
There we go. You got it.
Yep. There you go. So here we go, everybody.
So
this is Rachel Marilyn, Gil Thorpe. Very cool, with Henry Barajas dialogue.
And you can probably tell, but there's definitely a huge amount of Rod's work still in the strip. So there's like a little bit of I would say a stylistic, I guess, relatability with my own work and what Rod does. And so I keep trying to keep that in mind, like, make sure the character still, even though a new artist is on, still maintain a lot of the same kind of like compositions and
sure.
Shots, while certain things I definitely want to like do my own spin on. So this one's actually a pretty good representation of stuff I like to draw, and then I'm like, oh well, Rod did a really good dynamic composition of two characters talking to each other. I really like how he puts one further back and then has a really strong profile. So I like to try and continue that when I can.
Are we going to get into some action scenes of gameplay and the like?
Oh yeah, we've had like a bunch this past fall. Like I had one where Henry had me draw a crowd of teenagers who just scored a goal, like all in football gear, just going woo, and like getting yelled at by the coach for grandstanding. That was fun.
That's cool. Have you? Are there sports you want to that you've suggested to Henry that beyond the majors, that there's something you would want to put in there?
Oh gosh. I mean, for me, I was not a sports kid myself, which is why when I told my family, they thought it was just hilarious because they're all sports junkies and I'm the weird art kid. But I mean, to me, I love drawing people in all forms. So even if I personally would never want to play football, I really like drawing anyone in motion. It probably comes from doing when I was younger, I did 11 years of dance. So bodies in motion of any kind, any context, I really enjoy.
That's great. Excellent. And then also you guys are doing a Kickstarter?
Yes.
Let's and I'll bring that page up in a second. But Henry, tell me about the Kickstarter you guys are working on.
I was looking for an artist to work with, and I stumbled upon Rachel's comic she has on Gumroad. What's the title of the comic?
That one's adult romance. straightforward.
Yeah, adult romance. And I was looking for someone who can like really work with blacks, and I wanted to do a true noir, and it's basically the zoo suit riots that happened in the 1940s in Los Angeles, that stems from the Sleepy Lagoon murder case that happened in 1942. There was a group of kids, Mexican kids, that got pinned for a murder that LAPD didn't have any evidence to say they actually killed this guy. And there was a lot of support from Orson Welles and Rita Hayworth and a lot of like socialist Hollywood types back then to get these kids out. But all the resources went to the boys because they were facing death row. The girls were wards of the state until they were 21 years old. So in our story, a mother tries to hire a private investigator, Ricky Tellez, to figure out who killed Jose Diaz at the Sleepy Lagoon. And his investigation leads him to the 5-day civil war between U.S. sailors and zoot suiters, where the sailors just invaded Chicano neighborhoods and started beating and stripping men that were wearing zoot suits.
Jeez, I want to say, and maybe you saw it, Henry. I think American Experience on PBS did a fantastic documentary.
Yes, that is a huge influence. Rachel and I like to call ourselves the Ken Burns of comics.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. Death to Pachuco, everybody, is the title. And if you can't see here on the video screen, and for our audio audience, 6 days to go, and they're about just under $2,000 shy of the goal that they're looking for. So we need to get behind this. Your art looks great, honestly, Rachel. I think it looks terrific.
Oh, yeah. That's actually David Lapham.
Oh, of course. Well, we know and we love David Lapham, so that's awesome. Here we go. Here's some interiors from you.
Yeah, that's my work right there.
That looks cool. Outstanding.
With Lulu Ridge doing the color, and this is all my work. All these character designs and whatnot.
Oh, great.
I also do animation, so character design is one of my favorite parts of comics or animation. So I did a whole model set for everything.
What animation do you work on?
I'm self-taught, but my last credit was I was a rotoscope animator for the film Quantum Cowboys, which stars Lily Gladstone and David Arquette. It's a really funky, awesome, multi-animated story that is also about cowboys and space, and it's my favorite movie about a multiverse.
This is great, Rachel. I'm scrolling down and looking at your stuff. It looks fantastic.
Thanks. Henry gave excellent direction, and really just let me go to town, and we had a really good rapport as far as like building a reference library, since we really wanted to maintain accuracy as much as we could.
Did you find a lot of photos to emulate in your art?
Yeah, I'm really lucky in that my grandfather on my mother's side, he was a young man in the early 40s and was an avid photographer. So we have like thousands of photos of that. And obviously I don't have all of those with me. Most of them are in Texas, but I have a huge amount. And I ended up using a photo of my grandmother in like 1942 as like her outfit, her like Sunday best is one of the outfits for a character. And then on top of that, I'm just a big photography nut for someone who's a comic artist. And there was a photographer around the same time period named Mike DeSparmer. He worked in Arkansas, and he's sort of lumped in with the found art kind of thing, but he was a very professionally skilled artist. But he did portrait photography, like he was just basically a portrait photographer for hire. Sure. But they're really beautiful. They're really incredible. They have a naturalism that you don't often see, especially in Hollywood movies of the 40s. Like people can get kind of more dramatic than they actually were. You just see a lot more character and more different types of people. And it was mostly working people, which was like one of the things I really liked about it, but not like working as in they're covered in dirt either. They're wearing their nice clothes, or even if they didn't have like they just had overalls, their overalls were clearly laundered and they knew how to put themselves together. It was not Hollywood's idea for people.
No, I get it. My parents were older and they were socializing in the late 40s and early 50s. So
yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
I get it. Henry, is this a graphic novel? Is this going to be issues? What's the plan
Well,
for it?
I mean, I would love for this to be a graphic novel and an ongoing series. But as you know, John, the climate in comics right now is up and down. We kind of are at a point where um, it's publishers are really looking for a safe bet. Like it's really hard to take a chance on something like this, where the Sleepy Lagoon murder case isn't like a Dahmer case or like something that anybody you can say Dahmer and everybody knows what you're talking about.
Sure.
And the Zoot Suit Riots was made famous by a 90s revival swing band by the name of Cherry Poppin' Daddies. So I'm lucky that people go, when I say Zoot Suit Riot, people start swing dancing like automatically, and they just can't help themselves. So it's one of those things where I'm grateful that Rachel said yes to something that isn't like, a genre like a fantasy or something that like can make us a lot of money. This is very much the like A24 indie project where everyone's taking a reduced page rate to work on something that I'm really passionate about. And thankfully, as you can hear from Rachel, she gets an opportunity to pull from very personal photographs and from personal, love and affinity of World War II history.
That's great. I think it's a great subject, and I'm always looking for good crime comics, and I think
as you know, I knew you would dig this, and that's the kind of Brubaker and Phillips are going to start. They're going to get consumed with Hollywood. We want to fill that slot of that like crime comics. They're not going to do it forever. We need to pick up the baton.
Call us.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Yeah, and is this the kind of genre that you love, Rachel? Anyway, as far as crime?
Yeah,
comics?
I mean, for me, like in the 2010s, like everything was either autobiographical or very, not to be too harsh, but like twee coming of age or fantasy, and it's like those are all great, but like I grew up reading like a lot of historical fiction. Like Gore Vidal's America series, one of my favorite just books and not series of novels in general. I just love Gore Vidal.
Me too.
And, oh, great! Oh man,
Truly,
half of us like really like Gore Vidal. It's just like he just knows a person. Like, he's an amazing writer, absolutely fabulous writer.
A couple of years ago, I got to interview the documentarian that made the Best of Enemies documentary.
Oh my god, I saw that. I love that. It's so good. Oh
yeah,
man.
and I'm a former broadcaster here in Chicago.
Oh, word.
And so I mean, I was really even just the whole ABC aspect of, for people who don't know, Best of Enemies covers Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley, totally on opposite ends of the political spectrum during the 1968 Democratic and Republican conventions. And instead of giving gavel to gavel coverage the way the other networks were, ABC just like kind of packaged everything into a 2-hour block at night. And it would end with Vidal and Buckley debating about what happened on the floor that day. And Buckley's a very staunch conservative, Vidal a very passionate liberal. And it was like an Ali Frazier kind of boxing match of words. And it's this amazing series of debates. And I think it's one of my favorite documentaries. And I always, I mean, for the many years that I paid attention to Gore Vidal, anytime he had a new interview, I hung on every word. The guy was amazing.
Yeah, I was lucky that he lived so long, and he still was like sharp as a tack up to the end, like Kurt Vonnegut. But yeah, like literally, he was like kind of rope-a-doping Buckley when he got him like to lose his temper. He was so good at just being like a perfect liberal troll. I was like, we need more of that, energy on the left again. We really need like some more Gore Vidal energy when it comes to like setting up conservatives for failure.
I am so with you, Rachel, and also I really appreciated the Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope reference that you just did there. I forgive me, because truly, it's always nice. Boxing interest keeps narrowing and stuff. So anyone that makes a box,
my uncle was a boxer.
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Gosh. I hope he didn't have the health problems that my uncle did with it. But
I'm sorry.
Yeah. There's this well-known photo from like the early 60s of my uncle really getting it in the teeth. And the caption on the newspaper says, "Despite how this looks, Lanny Merrill actually won this fight." It just happened after the photo was taken.
What weight class was he?
Oh, I have no idea.
How
He
much-
was never like a big dude, so like I mean
Maybe-
he was taller than my dad, like 6 foot and like more on the skinny side.
So maybe a middleweight or a welterweight or
Yeah,
something.
probably. My
Yeah.
my dad was didn't like boxing at all, so I didn't really learn a bunch about it. I didn't until like, adulthood. But I remember that and just being like, oh my God, my uncle was a boxer.
That's crazy.
But
And
yeah.
Henry, you had boxers in your family as well?
Yeah, my uncle was a boxer, lightweight, lost more than he
Uncle.
won. I think he got out early and got into real estate. So
That's smart. Get out.
honestly,
Get
Rachel,
out.
if you weren't going to be on this, we were going to talk about Green Hornet and probably the Tyson fight.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to relive the horror. Man, I'm telling you,
I
the
would
Tyson
watch it.
fight,
I didn't watch it. I didn't want to watch it.
depressing as hell.
Yeah.
Depressing as hell.
I don't need to see a legend lose to some little shit. Sorry.
Atta girl, Rachel. I'm so with you. Absolutely. I know. God, Jesus, Jake Paul. Ugh. All right. Well, wait. Let's get into you've given us the entry, Henry. Let's talk a little bit about Green Hornet. You and Alex Segura are doing the writing. Who's on the art chores for this series?
Frederico. It's his first book. Frederico Sorosa. Alex brought him in, and I was blown away. He is like a junior Greg Smallwood. Like, it's just it's some of the most incredible sequentials that I've ever had to be a part of. I mean, the fact that it's his first book, his first like professional work is it's scary, like for someone to come in this good. And I'm lucky, I get to work with Rachel, who's amazing and who is just bringing it. Like, I feel so lucky I get to work with amazing artists. But when we look at Green Hornet, he has never looked like this before. It's definitely very much a 1966 homage of the show. While as you know, I'm a huge fan of just pulling whenever I do something like Death to Pachuca, for example, there was about 6 to 7 months of research, and then when I get the call for Green Hornet, I find the Green Hornet 1930 scans and I read all those, and just that the elevator pitch is someone is killing capes, and since public domain characters are public domain, we're free to kill whoever we want in that area. So we're pulling a lot of really old, like B-side public domain characters in this, like the zebra. I'm sure, John, you're familiar with the zebra and Mr. Q.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's definitely Miss Fury and Green Hornet trying to find their mentor, and he's missing. And Kato is, kind of in the middle of this. It's not a love triangle. It's a like triangle of just like 3 people with very big personalities. And
so was their mentor also a costumed hero?
He is. Yes.
Excellent.
The Silver Shrike. He goes missing, and they're trying to find him, but they're caught in between this. Someone, they don't know who yet, is killing these heroes, and they could be next.
I'm a sucker for the Golden Age heroes. I mean, that's the cradle of where all of our modern heroes came from, and it's certainly the pulp influence, but also specifically with Green Hornet and Lone Ranger being radio characters first, and then being exploited in comic books and movie serials, and then eventually TV. And I love that the creators had the forethought to connect them as family. And,
Yes.
The Green Hornet is an ancestor of the Lone Rangers. And I love those now comics of the early 90s. I don't know if you read any of those, Henry.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest influences is the Matt Wagner Year One. Oh, hey, Joe. And Joe's doing amazing stuff. He's really and a supporter of Death to Pachuco, so thank you. doing some incredible stuff with the Milestone and DC and Spawn.
Just had him on talking about Shadow Cabinet and Milestone. Absolutely. No, Joel is just killing it. So
I loved last night's episode. I was really touched with all the things that was happening. So
yeah, if you missed it, everybody, you can watch it and you can listen to it. Shelley Bond, Mike Allred, and Steve Siegel talking about the Vertigo days and their projects that they worked on together and separately. And it's I've had a good run. I've had a lot of good people lately. Actually, today I posted the video. I'll post the audio tomorrow. Patton Oswalt and Jordan Blum, the
great
people behind the MODOK cartoon on Hulu, they curated a new hardcover of a collection of Marvel stories from the 60s to modern day. And it's really great to see the modern creators getting that respect that we've always had for the Silver and Bronze Age and even Golden Age creators. But I mean, that's the thing, like, the history of comics has been told so many times. It's like, yeah, but really, and goddess, I think, Word Balloon next year is going to be 20. And I mean, my 19 years of covering, and I would even say from 99 to 2024, these last 25 years, there have been a lot of brand new people that, well, and again, relatively speaking to that period, that have made a big impact on comics. Bendis and Gail Simone and Kelly Sue DeConnick and Matt Fraction and Greg Rucka, Ed Brubaker, Ron V, Kelly Thompson. I mean, I can keep going. Rachel, do you read comics beyond and obviously I know you're in the biz, but like really, what kind of comics do you read?
Oh gosh. So I started mostly with like Japanese comics when I was a kid.
Sure.
And then I started moving, but I read Watchmen like I think in 9th grade, and that's always I know. And I was like dating some guy in college. He's like, "Have you to read Watchmen?" And I'm like, "I read it when I was 15, dude."
Got it, girl.
Get with that program. And I was a huge Sandman freak.
Wonderful.
I love Sandman.
Sure.
Actually, I ended up getting taught by one of the interior artists at college, George Pratt. He was one of my teachers.
Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. Oh my God.
We didn't bond over that. We bonded over our love of blues music. So
the Police?
No, we bonded over like blues music. Like he's like
blues music. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's cool. He's a nice guy. And then kind of I got really in the 2010s. I took a few years off of like art because I got kind of burnt out of art school, and it was really not a good time to be going to art school because they were basically, it's like the 2008 financial crisis, and they basically, instead of trying to, hey guys, just hang in there tough, they were like, well, if you're not perfect 23, you're gonna never make it in the business. So I just assumed I wasn't gonna make it. So I took a few years, like, I guess I'll do something else, and I just kept going back to comics, and I got back into autobiographical ones. That's one of my favorite genres to read. I got really into Brendan Graham's work, and that kind of got me back into comics. My superhero knowledge is actually not that great. I read a decent amount, but other than like the only ones I could really like talk about at length, I would with confidence, is probably Watchmen and Sandman, which I guess wouldn't really be a superhero comic. It's its own weird thing.
Yeah, but Watchmen really obviously covers the conventions of superhero comics. And, it's no, that's great to hear. You'll forgive people like me. People like me welcome women in the clubhouse. That's great.
Oh, thanks.
It's 100%. Oh my God, 100%, man. No, I'm not a hater. What are you doing here?
I've met a lot. I've met a lot. Like if you couldn't name every C-list, B-list like character that appeared in 3 issues, and you were into stuff that wasn't comic or superhero specific comics, like, oh, don't talk to us. And then
no. Well, thankfully the comic reading world has come around, and Persepolis and Saga and all these other great.
Persepolis was another huge one for me, and I have read Saga. Saga's great.
There you go.
Yeah. Love Saga. But it's like this is gonna be a full-time job keeping up with that comic. It's as beautiful as it is.
Would you ever want to do costume characters?
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I never understood when people would like criticize me for being super into fashion because I'm like, what do you think you're reading? It's all like fashion.
Could not agree more.
They're like, I don't care about that shit. And it's like, but you're reading these people in ridiculous outfits. Like, you not understand.
And
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you kind of get into interesting design with the Golden Age characters. Like, I mean, the sleekness of Black Cat. Henry, did she precede Catwoman? Because Catwoman is in Batwoman #1, and that's 1940.
Yeah, she precedes. She's 1930s.
Okay.
I got to go. So when I was at Small Press Expo, I'm friends with folks at the Library of Congress. So shout out to the Library of Congress. They brought out archival copies of Miss Fury #1 and Green Hornet, early like 1930s copies. I'm normally not don't want to touch these things, but I was what they do is they dip them in wax. Like the whole issue is dipped in a wax to
protect it.
Yeah,
wow,
it's a controversial technique.
Yeah, because I mean, it kind of preserves it the way like a bug is an ember or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Right.
But I think slabbing them, and even in comic world, beyond the actual permanent slab, you got the clamshells these days, so you can protect it. But you do want to read it if you can, even carefully. So I was going to say though, Rachel, regarding the fashions and comics and stuff, especially the Golden Age designs, those are just so great. And a few years ago, they came out with these little 3-inch PVC figures of the Justice Society, for example, and the costumes are just. I mean, I remember as a little kid reading reprints of Justice Society stuff, and just the capes and the entire outfits and just the design, it just blew me away. And so I respect the whole fashion comics connection, definitely.
I mean, I always loved anything that has like a 60s mod element. That's like one of my favorite, like, the space age 60s fashion. It lends itself so well to like, that's one of the things, like my favorite TV show of all time is, I say I'm not like a super knowledgeable Silver Age comics, but my favorite TV show of all time is the Venture Brothers.
That's great.
Right there. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well,
yeah, it's my favorite. It's my favorite TV show, no question. It got me back into everything. It's the perfect show in my opinion.
Have you watched the inspiration for the Venture Brothers, Johnny Quest?
Oh yeah, I grew up on Johnny Quest.
Atta girl, outstanding.
I guess not the comics, the cartoons. I was a massive Johnny Quest kid.
The original 60s Johnny Quest series, the one season.
All the racist.
That's true. Unfortunately, you're right. They did play hard into stereotypes. You're right, but really, from a design standpoint,
incredible art direction.
It's the closest thing to really a comic book being truly animated. I mean, we had those Marvel superheroes where they took the actual panels, but all they did was they moved an arm or eyes blinked, or I mean, it's pretty crude animation. Meanwhile, Johnny Quest, I mean, they went over the top, and you got to.
Yeah, they went over budget too.
That's why we only got the one season. You're absolutely right.
The art director or the characters, and what's his name? Alex
Toth.
Yeah, Alex Toth. I worship that man's art. It's so
that's
incredible.
Great. You got to look up. They're on YouTube. You should find Space Angel, which was an earlier 60s Toth designed cartoon.
Shit, I will.
Very. It's definitely space opera, episodic, like 6-minute episodes. But everybody should search for Space Angel because that was another big rerun in the 70s. That again was while I was eating my potato chips. I was in front of the TV watching.
All right, I'm gonna check that out.
Shout out to Megan House Band at Library of Congress. I mean, it's something anyone can do. You can go if you're in DC, go to Library of Congress. You can pull whatever they have in their collection. We're talking about $20,000 comics that you can actually hold physically.
But Henry, again, they're in wax, so you can't open them up, can you?
No, you can.
Oh,
what?
So it's each page is
no, the whole book gets dipped into this like.
But how do you open it?
Yeah, how do you open it?
I don't know. It just you can open it like a regular comic. It's just It's
Okay.
wild.
Library of Congress says you can.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's
Yeah.
insane. That's amazing.
No.
I know. I'd love to see that. I got to remember that next time I go to DC.
No,
That'd be
definitely.
incredible to see.
But I was
That's great.
texting Alex Segura, the guy who brought me to the dance, was like, "Hey, here's what we're doing. We're like pulling. So if you go to, if you look up Green Hornet scans or like the early stuff, and you read those comics, you will find characters from those old original runs that will be appearing in this run, and also characters that are in the back of the book, like the Spirit of 76 and the Atomic Blonde, the Blonde Bomber. There's just like so many like weird things we're really doing with this, and we're lucky we get to have that runway, and to tell like such a we'd like to think this is going to be like a huge book and everyone's going to be really into it, but we also are treating this like our one and only shot to do a Green Hornet Miss Fury, because these characters, they've been around for a long time, and sometimes there's a certain level of complacency, and we're hoping to disrupt that complacency, because there are going to be things that happens in these comics that have probably never happened in any Green Hornet comic before.
That's great. Well, and also I have appreciated Dynamite grabbing a lot of these public domain heroes, back when Alex Ross was doing Project Superpowers and kind of was the de facto editor, kind of putting them all together. My buddy Doug Klauba was doing some of the 2-page origins of these public domain heroes in the back of the Black Terror and some of the other public domain heroes that Dynamite was exploiting. And I loved the Masks miniseries that Chris Robertson wrote. So that faced that stuff. Here, more from Joe Illage. He says that cast of characters sounds great. When does issue 1 drop?
It is on January 15th. The FOC is this Monday. It was originally solicited, and some, there was some changes, and I think with the holidays happening, thankfully we're 2 issues done. So when these books come out, we're well ahead. And thankfully, knock on wood, nothing bad has happened to keep us from production. But
how many issues for the story?
I believe 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's going to be such a joy to see what people, how they react to what we do to these. One of my favorite interviews you ever did, John, was with Brian Bendis, and it's kind of stuck with me. Like, none of my characters are eating pie. Like, there's like something bad's going to happen, and you're going to enjoy it.
You're saying there's no quiet moments in the comic, I'm assuming.
No time for eating pie.
No time for eating pie.
No time for pie. Absolutely. No, that's hilarious. So is it set in the 40s?
It's set in the 60s.
Okay. Because you've given, as far as the design, this is more the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yes.
Green Hornet. I love that face mask. I mean, I appreciate the domino mask that Van Williams wore back in the series and stuff, but no, nothing screams Green Hornet more than that face mask. So that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, and it just gives you more story. Something could happen to that mask, and it's one of those things where you're just like, it's a reason. There's a reason why he wears it, and you want to put that mask to use. Somebody's got to punch it in. It's a superhero comic.
I liked what Now Comics did in terms of making the original 30s Green Hornet the uncle, much like he was the nephew of the Lone Rangers, or his grandfather was the nephew of the Lone Rangers, I suppose, Dan Reed. But that Britt Reed from the 30s is the uncle to Britt Reed of the 60s, the Van Williams Britt Reed.
Oh, cool.
And so, so there was like a continuation of the lineage and stuff.
Yeah.
And even Kato's nephew became the Bruce Lee Kato rather than the radio and movie serial. Right. Kay Luke, a wonderful actor, wonderful Asian actor, played Kato in the old movie serials. Now, I as a little kid, I saw the reruns of the Van Williams show.
Oh wow!
And as I've tried to explain to people who only saw the crossover on, I don't know if you ever saw it, Rachel, on the old Adam West Batman show, there is a crossover episode.
Oh, really? Oh, I think
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I've heard of it. Yeah, yeah.
And it's great because Burt Ward is squaring off in a John L. Sullivan sort of way with Bruce Lee, and it's like, oh dude,
geez.
don't
No.
even try, you
I mean-
knucklehead. You know.
I mean,
Like a
Adam
lamb
West
to
against
slaughter.
Bruce Lee is even like
Yeah.
bad. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what I
No.
loved about Dragon, the movie that they made about Bruce Lee, and the guy playing Bruce Lee, they're like, do something exciting for your entrance, and he literally like explodes through a door. The door just smashes into bits, and he unties the Green Hornet, and he's so dynamic, beating the hell out of all these guys in that Bruce Lee way. But by
Yeah.
the same token, I have to admit, I don't know if did you guys see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Of course.
Yeah, I did.
That scene with first of all, the guy who played Bruce Lee, holy shit, my God. I mean, that really was like Bruce Lee come back to us.
Yeah,
He looked
is
exactly
scary.
like him. Frightening. But it was pretty funny watching Brad Pitt fight him and everything.
When I saw that, I knew there was going to be a backlash. I was like, there is no way people are going to be like, oh, that could have happened.
Well, and over the years now, and I believe Dynamite as well, have done their Kato comics and stuff like that. Kato's a great character, man, and I mean that's the great thing. It is wonderful that with the evolution of reasonable thinking, we have come from houseboy Kato to no, this guy's a partner, and
Yes.
really and the teamwork. So I would imagine, yeah, that's a great opportunity, Henry, for you to write. And you and Alex to write, Kato with a little more agency.
That was one thing that Alex and I really talked about was these guys have got along for so long. There is going to be issues with them in this because there is Miss Fury and there is this mentor, and Britt is letting these things get in his way, and Kato's like, "Hey, man, if you just stopped and think about this, and not." Get so emotional, we could be figuring this out, and that's not what's happening.
Interesting.
And well, the interesting thing about Kato is he doesn't have a last name.
Of course not.
So
I always assumed Kato was the last name, but you tell me.
you tell me.
I mean, no, you're right, man. I mean,
There is a first name that he goes by that I found in year
Maybe
one.
he's got
by
a
Matt
double
Wagner.
a double name like me. He's got
Yeah.
two given names.
There you
It's
go.
just the same
Well,
one.
so when
Kato,
he's with
Kato.
Britt, people call him by his first name because it'd be weird. I mean, and that's the thing. Do people know about Kato? Is just Green Hornet the one that's always on the news, And so, yeah, so that I try to make sure we give him a little bit more of a full character and to have the, he is the sound mind. He is not Robin. He's more like Nightwing.
I get it. No, absolutely. Rachel, it reminds me of Jonas Ventures' group of heroes and
Yeah.
the big odd job guy. I forget his name.
Yes, Kato.
Is his name also Kato? I got no problem with calling him Kato.
But
Shame on us, but
but then in the later seasons, the Monarch becomes the version of the Green Hornet.
oh, that's right.
What's it called? Oh gosh, I have to look this up. I can't. I'm being so terrible. But anyways, 21, his former henchman, now his right hand man, he becomes Kato.
Oh, that's right.
So-
That's right. I love 21. He sounds like
I know.
Ray Romano. That's oh no, he's the dead.
20
Actually, you're right. The other one is the
23. I think
yeah,
it's
that's
23.
yeah, because you're right. The other 21 is the one. Okay, he talks like many of the people we see at comic book stores. You're absolutely right.
So when 23 dies, spoiler for anyone who hasn't been paying attention, 25 years of Adventure Brothers airing.
Wow, it has been that long. Jesus,
We are
Like-
talking about Green Hornet and Johnny Quest, so
I got no problem with this.
It's not like we're
Fantastic.
talking about anything new right now.
No,
Right,
this
exactly.
is great. This is great, and I love the gentleman who speaks like Sean Connery. The action man. Yeah,
Oh yeah, the one who's also like a pedophile too.
Great
It's
stuff, man.
amazing. It's so good. It's so good. Henry, I was gonna bring up. I love Miss Fury's costume. It reminds me. Have you ever seen Irma Vep? It's
No.
It was a character from a giant silent French film called Les Vampires or Les Vampires, or whatever. I can't say it. But she had a very similar outfit, and then Olivia Assange, I believe, cast Maggie Chung as a remake and called Irma Vep, and she wears a very similar outfit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if you look up Irma Vep, it's like almost the same exact costume.
I will check it out. I mean,
yeah.
You know,
the Maggie Chung one looks really close to it, which is really cool. And that's also just a great movie.
One of the cool things about Miss Fury is she really hates Nazis, and that's about it. She got her costume from her rich uncle and gives her superpowers, and they never really explained why, but they just had her killing and beating Nazis in the 30s.
I wonder when Dave Gibbons was designing oh god, now I'm blanking on from the Minutemen and Watchmen, the woman that was all in black.
Oh yeah.
And I can't think of her name right now. Not Silk Spectre.
Yeah,
that was Carla Gugino and now I'm blanking on the modern Spectre. But yeah, the other woman that was in the group. And I mean, although I would imagine, given that Dave grew up in England and stuff, that maybe there's a Modesty Blaise kind of connection. Yeah. You know, I don't know if Rachel, I don't know if you know Modesty Blaise. She's terrific. That's another one to look up. She's like a female James Bond from the 60s. Great comic strips. And very, if you know the British action series, The Avengers, very Diana Rigg.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Listen, Kathy Gale, Honor Blackman, and Diana Rigg as Mrs. Peel.
I love Honor Blackman. Okay.
Come on, yeah. Well, I really think Modesty Blaise probably played an influence on their all leather action suits that they used to wear.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff.
And just to get back to Rachel and her like obvious keen eye on fashion with Death to Pachuco, that is one of the biggest things. Is the suits play a role in the story.
Yes.
And, you know, it is almost like a third character, basically. And it's one of the most important and reasons why I wanted to work with Rachel was I don't have to explain fashion and I don't have to explain these like certain elements. She just like will pick it up. And it's such a I mean, it really helps with the story we're trying to tell. You know, as you see, these are basically the first if you go back down, you see the lineups. Those are real photos of the girls that were lined up in 1942. And these are the real guys who were actually on trial. And the sad thing was they didn't let them change their clothes. They didn't let them get haircuts. So when they were presented to the jury, they looked disheveled and dirty all the time. It was, you know, played into the defense, you know.
Huge. I mean, it was a complete violation of their rights. You know, that's one of the core tenets of going to trial. You're entitled, you know, it's why, you know, they'll, you know, if you're in jail, you're still entitled to wear a suit at your trial, at your court appearance. They didn't get that.
Sure. Wow, man. All right, thank you, Joe Illidge. Silhouette is the character we were trying to think of from Watchmen, from the Minutemen. Yeah, I love in the opening when they're playing the Bob Dylan "Times They Are Changing" and they recreate that fantastic World War II photo of the sailor kissing the nurse.
She like punches him, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Well, and in the Watchmen open and stuff, it's Silhouette kissing.
I remember,
another woman. Yeah. So pretty good. pretty good. Good for you guys. I mean, I love that Zack Snyder made that choice. I think that was a great choice and everything. I like that movie. Do you guys like it?
I think it's you know, we it's getting its fair shake. It's not its worst, but it is definitely not the worst superhero movie of all time.
Did you guys see the HBO TV series The Watchmen?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I loved it. It's like into it.
Well, and I mean, and I give Damon Lindelof a lot of credit for being able to take Watchmen, which, I mean, even Zack Snyder back when he adapted for the film, everyone's like, man, I don't know, that's a tall order and that's a big book. And well, what can you say after Watchmen? And they came up with this incredible story. Regina King was fantastic. You know, what really blew me away was Gene Smart as as
Yeah,
an older Silk Spectre. And
yeah.
man, she can do anything, including her SNL hosting that she did this season and stuff. I mean, I've always been a fan of hers going back to Designing Women. That's the first thing I ever saw her in back in the 80s. But she's just such a great, and of course, Hacks, her HBO series that she's doing with Lorraine Newman's daughter and everything. Oh
Yeah.
my God. So yeah, I really like, that was the big surprise for me. The guy who played Dr. Manhattan was outstanding as well. But and Regina, like I said, Regina King was just fantastic. But yeah, it was really Gene Smart showing up as like adult Silk Spectre. It was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
No, it was an incredible series. I think it really kind of influenced so many things we've seen now, with like finding ways to present, and I would be a liar if I didn't say that show wasn't an inspiration to this, finding this like very racist point of history and using it as a center point to kind of tell a story around it.
Is Gil Thorpe something that Tribune has ever shopped around as a potential TV series? I would imagine in this era of teen, soap opera dramas.
Someday.
Well, truly, it would seem to me that that's like a no-brainer to do a Gil Thorpe TV series like that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Rachel and I have really tried to do is treat this as our day job. It is not our puppy. We watch the puppy and give it back to the owner at night, and the puppy does
I stay up at night
puppy
and
things.
take care of that dog.
Atta girl.
Day and night.
We feed it the best food. We hope Death to Pachuco is the thing that gets shopped around. That's what we can control.
Well, certainly. I respect that. Absolutely, man.
No, we love Gil. We talk about him every day. I made the mistake of giving him some scruff, which turned into a beard, and I took the beard away.
I know.
And Rachel has not forgiven me for it, but
my girlfriends who are reading Gil Thorpe have not forgiven you for it.
Well, I haven't forgiven myself. Gil he's a beautiful man, and we can only give people so much.
An ageless man, truly.
Ageless.
Like how he's not been captured by science and studied since he has not aged since 1958.
Rachel, Henry and I talked about it before. Here in Chicago, there's a very fervent Gil Thorpe Society. Actually, shame on me, I don't know the current status of said group, but they would always meet at one local Chicago bar. And I forget his name, Henry, who was the original? Jack Brill. Yeah, Jack Brill would come every year. And yeah, they loved it. And in fact, I come from sports radio, and one of my old partners, Mike Murphy, is he's a few years older than me and massive Gil Thorpe fan. So I had to have him on with Henry when Henry took over Gil and everything, and had him ask Henry questions as well.
When I got the gig, the first person I thought of was John. It was Yoko Chips.
Old man. John, you like old shit. Guess what old shit I'm doing right now? I just knew
it was Chicago. I was like, this is Chicago sports. You. This guy knows it.
Well, and
my dad. Oh, go ahead.
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No. Go ahead.
My dad is like half certain that he has read Gil Thorpe when he lived in Chicago because he worked at Boeing for years. I don't know if Chicago is aware of Louisiana, but Louisiana is very aware of Chicago because it's like the next big city after New Orleans because all you have to do is go up the river. So a lot of people who hate growing up Louisiana, the first city they move to get out of Louisiana is they go to Chicago.
That's interesting. Well, and also,
pipeline.
Well, it's sadly too big mob connection between Chicago and New Orleans for many decades.
Big Catholic connection.
Mob connection. Well, I for a true crime reality show, I did an episode about the Kennedy assassination, and just like the Giancana and the Chicago family, and I forget the mobster's name from New Orleans, but they, there is conspiracy theorists out there that believe.
Oh yeah.
There you
Especially
go.
With Jack Ruby came in from New Orleans, I believe, to kill the RV.
And worked for the Giancana family in Chicago as well.
Yeah.
So no. It's the connections are there. So pretty crazy, man. Well, and what is the Chicago connection to for Pachuco? There is a Chicago connection as well, correct?
No, it's just
excuse
LA.
Me. Excuse me. Okay, yeah. No, Zoot riots. The Zoot riots.
the Zoot Suits was like a nationwide
Sure.
fad that was
Oh, yeah.
appropriated by Black culture and Black fashion.
Sure.
It's interesting as someone who's grown up, as a kid and as a Latino. A lot of Latinos want to be Black, but are super racist to Black people. But they'll won't be afraid to wear the clothes and listen to the music and throw the N-word around. So it was funny to like go back to the 40s and see kind of the machination of what like this kind of started. And if it wasn't for the Black community showing up on day 5, the sailors were having their way with the Mexican men, and once the Black Zoot Suiters showed up, it was full on lockdown.
Wow.
They were not going to mess with that.
And it reminds me too. Some of our more cynical white guys would make fun of the kids at the mall that would get into hip hop and start talking street, and it's just like, yeah, whatever. But I can say that my dad, being a 40s guy, I don't know if he ever actually got the Zoot Suits, but he was certainly into the music and certainly, respected the Black culture and guys like Cab Calloway and, Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn.
We have them all on our playlist.
Oh, hey, did you guys, that's a great question. Did you guys create a music playlist? So is it on Spotify or something for Pachuco?
Yeah, it's on Spotify. Yeah.
What's it titled under?
I think it's just called Death to Pachuco. So I think Henry's a collaborator. So if you go to his Spotify, you should be able to find it.
Well, yeah, Rachel created it on Spotify and Apple Music, and that's the thing. Like, as John, as you know, radio, you can't miss music, and the music is such a huge influence to what we're trying to do. And Rachel, huge musician, music fan, so we all just like. It's very much what we are kind of playing. I'm kind of sad my Spotify rap year didn't like highlight that stuff, but
I feel like that stuff is like it just picks like the most shallow versions of like the sleep music you use to go to bed.
Yeah, I mean, if you click on the trailer, you'll see, John, like the vibes what we're really trying to go for. It's very like. I've always, as you know, we've always tried to treat comics like comics, and we don't want this to be a TV pitch or a movie pitch, but this is very much influenced by film noir, and a lot of film noir is pulled from this, and the music, especially of that time. So it is I love watching noir on Criterion. And that is a major influence on what we're trying to do in it. And Rachel was very helpful with a lot of research and film, and turned me on to Gilda. I had never seen it.
Rita Hayworth, yes, and Glenn Ford, great movie. Atta girl, man. Rachel, forgive me. I don't mean to keep giving my atta girls, but
my taste. I love being complimented on my taste.
No, you have great taste. And again, I'm not. And again, forgive the the initial like. Well, we'll see how much you know about the old days, because truly, hey, I just turned 60, and I'm always thrilled. Well, yeah, thank you. But I'm always Jenny Frison is a great old Hollywood fan that is also a wonderful comic book artist. And when I've known her for a long time, and it was like, oh, Jenny, that's great, man. Because again, a couple decades younger than me, but it's like, a lot of people that are younger than 40, don't have a lot of patience for old Hollywood movies. So that's great. Gilda's a wonderful example of that. Absolutely.
I mean, the poster alone is so iconic.
That dress, Jesus.
I know, absolutely. And then there's that really sad quote she has of like, "Men go to sleep with Gilda and then wake up with me." It's like just her whole life is like a soap opera itself.
Yeah, Rita Hayworth's life was very troubled. And man, I every now and then I'll catch one of her late 30s, early 40s movies with Fred Astaire. And she's we all take it for granted, Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. And Rita Hayworth did a hell of a job keeping up with Fred and dancing and stuff.
To be honest, I think she's a better dancer than Ginger Rogers, personally. But she also was raised a dancer by her father, who was a professional dancer himself. Yep. And then he had her become his adult dance partner when she was 11.
Wow.
wasn't its own massive issue on so many different levels. But no, was an incredible dancer. Like, as someone who did dance for 11 years before I got into visual art, like truly respect her. Yeah, great, amazing dancer, amazing performer.
That's awesome.
I think Rachel and I are lucky to be, the same age and to have that like millennial experience of using, VHS tapes and cassettes and, vinyl and DVD and, to be able to have access
before streaming.
Right. And
right.
to have, access to cable television and I think that really we're lucky in that respect to be that middle age of that, like between the millennial Gen X and the it's why like I'm so glad Rachel is giving, like I don't think people understand how much of like an artist like Rachel who has to give their time and literally their body to tell this story. And I am so lucky that we get to collaborate on this and that she is sacrificing. She could be working on her rotoscope project. She could be working on her own, create her own stuff. But the fact that she is giving it a chance on this is truly means a lot to me.
Well, I think you're selling yourself a little bit short, Henry. It's a great story. So I felt very excited when you were like, hey, I have this thing. I was like, oh my God. How did you know I'm a 1940s nut? So I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I absolutely want to do this. Like, no question.
Well, you're clearly an old soul. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Go ahead. When he pitched it to you, what?
As soon as he pitched it to me, I wanted it. And then he sent me the script. I read within the first 3 pages, like, yep. What do I have to do to get?
Outstanding. That's great. So 6 days left, everybody, for Death to Pachuco, and really sounds amazing. And again, it's a great subject: the Zoot Suit riots and killings.
Yeah, and shout out to Lee Lurich, who is one of, if not the greatest, modern colorist who really set the tone on how we use digital coloring and really forge that path for people. As you were talking to Shelley Bond last night, an important colorist with Vertigo in DC.
100%. Absolutely, man. Yeah. I mean, think of Fables and all the other great things that he was involved with. I'm trying to bring up the Gil Thorpe image again so I can once again remind people of the excellent work that Rachel is doing in Gil Thorpe now. Every 5 days a week or just Sundays or
6 days?
6 days a week.
But no Sunday. So Monday through Saturday.
Yeah. Makes me sad, but
okay.
It Rachel is happy for it.
Yeah, I do need to.
Yeah, and also, I mean, my God, how far in advance, are you mapping out from a storytelling standpoint? And then, I mean, and really how much, because obviously I think you would want, and again, my presumption is that you'd want a guideline of where, okay, I've got 4 panels each day to fill with a certain amount of story. But yeah, as far as that kind of, as opposed to, and I'm assuming like web comics and other comics that, comic strip formatted things that you've done before, this is more deadline art and stuff. So yeah, what do you do to kind of prepare and execute a 6-day-a-week strip?
Gil is a 24/7 job. It really is something I think about every single day. And I am lucky that we are now working into January. And we, going 2 years and really kind of containing the cast as much as possible. You really give every character their action, and every action splinters off into different results. And we're really right now, what you're watching is Gil Thorpe is bringing a kid who was at a juvenile corrections facility for beating up the opposite team's coach. So Gil intentionally scouted this kid to intimidate the coach. And this was set a year ago. The fight happened a year ago with the coach. And then we saw him again just in July at the corrections facility. And Gil's like, well, how are you doing, kid? And he's like, how do you think I'm doing? I'm in prison. I'm in kid jail. And he's like, well, come play for Milford. And there is a rivalry building between him and the opposite coach. And he plays his card, brings his kid out. Tomorrow we're going to see how that coach reacts. So it is a years long game, and we're lucky to have that kind of that runway to be like, and to be almost a month ahead, if not a little bit more than that, to be like, okay, we know what we're doing a month from now. We're just always a month ahead for
Makes
as
sense.
long as we can.
Like 4 or 5 weeks per story. How many? I mean, and like you said, you're taking obviously elements from months ago and everything. But yeah, as far as
we're at least 3 weeks.
Do
ahead.
they collect them still? Okay. And do they collect them as trades? I know they used to in the Jack days.
There was a company that was doing that, and I think I just lost my video. So, here we go.
Yeah, I was going to say, but it's
it's okay. It's coming back. So there was a company that republished those old stuff, and there might be some new stuff coming.
Well, here's hoping. Absolutely. That'd be great. Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed. I'm with you, Rachel. Absolutely. Well, guys, truly great talking to you. And Death to Pachuco. If you're listening on audio, you've got 5 days to help them out on the cause. But, man, it looks like a great crime comic, and I urge you to go to the Kickstarter page for Death to Pachuco and check out what Rachel
Green Hornet, January 15th.
Yes, indeed. I was going to bring up the covers again. But yeah, Green Hornet, Miss Fury crossover with apparently a lot of other Golden Age creator or heroes showing up. May not make it through the series. So it might be interesting to see which costume people get it.
Yeah.
I think that sounds great. No, Henry, always a pleasure. Really nice meeting you, Rachel.
It was really nice meeting you too. Glad to
thank you for
be
coming
a fellow
on.
Gore Vidal fan.
Absolutely. Indeed. So thanks everybody for watching and listening. It's going to be an interesting week next week. I know Tom Pyre and Jamal Eigel are going to join me to talk about The Wrong Earth from Ahoy Comics, another great slant on superhero comic. Yep. And who else? Jeff Parker's coming back. Jeff's in the midst of a new Batman Santa Claus crossover happening at DC just in time for the Christmas season. So that's something else we'll be talking about. A bunch of other subjects as well as we hit December in full stride. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. I'm waiting for that video.